Welcome to Edible Gardening Made Easy. I'm Alex Mitchell, a gardening writer, journalist and self-confessed edible gardening obsessive. Over the next 4 lectures, I'll be taking you through the basics of growing fruit and vegetables, from how to prepare the soil to the best crops to grow, tips for how to cultivate them, and ways to avoid pests eating them before you can. Even if you have never sown a seed in your life, this course will give you the confidence to grow delicious salads, herbs, tomatoes, carrots and much more, whether you have a huge garden or room only for a few pots. As I hope this course will show, you really don't need masses of time or space to grow great crops. Growing your own fruit and veg has never been more popular. Back at the turn of the millennium, when I discovered my obsession, I kept my tomato grow bags rather quiet. The only people growing their own veg in those days seemed to be middle-aged men, brewing red currant wine in the allotment shed to get away from their wives. 10 or so years later, and we are in the grip of a growing your own revolution. Everyone's doing it. Allotments have never been more sought after, and those tired of waiting for one, such as me, are now turning their back gardens into productive grow zones, intermingling their tulips with sun-warmed tomatoes and glossy chard. Maybe we've all just woken up to the fact that homegrown crops taste better. But I think there's more to it. Growing food gives us a satisfying connection to the soil and the seasons, particularly for those of us who live in cities. This course takes you through a whole growing year, so you can sow and plant as we go. This first lecture gets you all set for planting. We'll cover how to assess your growing site, soil preparation and digging, as well as an introduction to composting and wormeries. Lecture 2 covers sowing and runs through lots of delicious easy crops to try. Future lectures will cover summer and finally autumn and winter. I'm not going to cover every fruit and vegetable crop you can possibly grow. You may notice omissions such as main crop potatoes, asparagus, cabbage, Brussels sprouts and turnips. I've left some out because they're tricky for beginners, others because I don't think they give enough back when you grow them at home. This might be because they take up too much space or don't deliver taste-wise over shop-bought versions. Instead, I've chosen crops that will work even in small spaces, those that taste superior, can be grown with relative ease, and that will reward you with a plentiful, beautiful harvest. All the gardening methods in this course are organic. There are no nasty chemicals, and all the advice here is geared towards creating a garden run on organic lines. So, let's get on with preparing your edible Eden. You might be wondering if preparing soil is necessary. It can seem like a hassle when you really want to get on with the glamorous part of gardening, the planting. But it really is worth doing because, as the gardening veterans say, look after your soil and the plants will look after themselves. If your soil is fertile, weed-free and holds moisture well without becoming waterlogged, your plants won't need feeding or watering as often. You won't have to be in competition with weeds for space, water and nutrients, and they'll also be less susceptible to pests and diseases. In no area of gardening is this perhaps more important than when growing fruit and vegetables. Edible crops are often hungry feeders, meaning they take a lot of goodness out of the ground, so they really need fertile soil to grow well. So, how do you get your soil into good shape? Maybe you inherited it from a lovely old gent who spent the past 30 years digging in manure, clearing weeds and removing stones, leaving you with a perfect tilth that you can merely touch with the seed and cause a productive edible jungle to grow. But probably not. Chances are your allotment is waist-high in weeds and your garden a rectangle of boggy lawn flanked by limping shrubs, badly drained soil and a healthy army of weeds. Here's mine before I started work on it. And here's what it looks like now. Raspberries, fruit trees, grapes and a whole lot more packed into a tiny city space. But before you start digging, you'd better choose where to grow your crops. Generally, fruit and vegetable plants require sun to grow well. So your ideal location for your veg patch or containers is a sunny, sheltered spot away from trees or hedges. Take a good look at your garden over a few days, observing how the sun...
Just doing a quick garden update. Right here I planted some bok choys in these pots on each side here. As you can see, we got a few plants here. This here is stevia. It's going out for the winter. And all of my dandelion greens are really shooting out there. Even got a little bud coming out of the middle of there. The garlic's doing okay in there. I found some lamb's quarter in the backyard and I transplanted into some little pots on each side over here. I'll put those in bigger pots as they grow. And there's my mallow, it's doing great on both sides. Here's my sugar snap peas. They're not doing so well. They're growing really slow and looking kind of yellow. I don't know if they'll make it or not. In the middle I planted another bok choy. Here's all my collards. They're doing really good. They're just gigantic leaves. And then my cabbage is getting bigger. Red lettuce, that one didn't do so well on this side, but over here the chard, all the chard is really big, doing really good. And all the lettuce here is just gigantic now. Look at that, the whole bed's pretty filled. This lettuce is just huge. Harvest a little bit off of these. I'm gonna let them grow a little more. Some more chard there. The red lettuce doing good. And here I have some wood sorrel, which is also known as sour grass. This is a pretty tasty variety. And I have a garlic planted in the middle. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Garden update. It's been 1 month since my last update. Right there's a bok choy. It's starting to bolt. That's what I expected it to do in that little pot, but that's alright. That one's bolting too. It's not as big. The dandelion's really got a ton of leaves and it has flowers on it. That's got a little flower. The wood sorrel. That sorrel is really filled in there. The garlic's growing in the middle. And of course that's stevia. Right there's my bok choy. It looks like it got eaten by birds. Birds will fly in here and eat all that. And sugar snap peas are coming back. They got pretty cold the other night. But they're doing okay. They're growing really slow. And then here's this raised bed with all the lettuce, chard, and cabbage. A few garlics here. You can see the garlics down there coming in. And right there. And here's this bed. I've harvested one whole head the other day and I replaced it with a broccoli. And I'm going to be harvesting all these heads. They're starting to get a lot of dead leaves on them, so I think it's time to harvest them. And I got these old barrel things, and I've got 3 of these that somebody gave me that I'm going to fill up. And this thing over here, I'll just dump that soil out, it's probably no good. And right here I've got all my broccoli and celery that I'm going to replace the lettuce and anything that I take out with. Alright, thanks for watching.